Welcome to the first episode of PA Podcast. I'm Kevin Bernard. This is our co-host, Sam Demers. The idea behind PA Podcast is to go around the school and address issues and talk about topics that otherwise people wouldn't know that are still important in the school. Our mission is to enlighten people and educate based upon things that are important, but again, people just don't really know about. And it's kind of a shame that they don't. Like our good friend today, Mr. Ricard. That's the cut for you. So we'll start now. Mr. Ricard, what's it like being a woodshop teacher at PA?
I don't know. I don't really have any place else to compare it to. It's the only place I've ever worked as a teacher, but it's fun most days. I like it. Showing people how to use tools, helping them make things basically, and making sure they don't cut anything off in the process.
Where did you grow up?
Jaffrey, New Hampshire.
What was Jaffrey like? Or what is Jaffrey like?
It's a community of about 5,500 in the summer, maybe 4,000 in the winter. We have some summer houses. Small, kind of like Pembroke. We don't have a grocery store. A couple gas stations. Growing up, there were a couple grocery stores, and we had a train come to town that used to haul stuff from a couple of the factories, a freight train. It was a very French blue-collar town.
What would you say some of your favorite childhood memories are?
I was pretty involved in Boy Scouts, so that was kind of a good memory. Had a lot of good memories there. I had a good family, so I like to look at my family, my sister and my parents. My grandparents lived right next door, about 20 feet away, so that was kind of nice. I was a favorite grandchild too. I wasn't the oldest. There was another one that lived in Marlborough, but I had geographic advantage being 20 feet away, so that was good, 3 generations living pretty close together, so pretty good extended family.
What does your career look like over the years?
I don't know. It's kind of a tough question to ask. It's kind of the same, but kind of different, I guess. I haven't done the same project year and year. Some places they do the same thing over and over again. I went for an interview before I worked here, and the guy'd been there 35 years and made the same table for 35 years, which I don't think would have worked for me. I would have either gotten bored and not paid attention. Somebody would have chopped something off or turned to substance abuse or something. I just would have been really bored. So it's every year it's a new group of people, and we make new things, and some things I design, sometimes the students design them, and sometimes a combination of both. So although it's the same subject matter, the projects change, so it's been pretty kind of varied. Both structures and sheds, and like the pavilion thing at Three Rivers we did, but we did the cases in the hall here, and the wall of famous people in the cafeteria, and a whole bunch of stuff throughout the district. So it's been varied, but good. I like it.
Obviously every school is looking for a woodshop teacher, and you've been here. You're the longest reigning staff member here now with Miss Johnson leaving. So why work at PA for so long? Like, what keeps you here?
Well, I don't know. I guess I personally don't like change. I live about a quarter of a mile from where I grew up. My mother still lives there. And in the former life, I lived about a half a mile in the other direction. So I've only lived, within probably a 3/4 of a mile span, other than going to college and living in a dorm while I was there. And I only went to college in Manchester, so I didn't go too far. I could go home whenever I wanted or whatever. Not that I went home a lot, but so I haven't really traveled very far. So I don't like change. I never really applied here. I just the person before me, the guy, he was out on medical leave. So school had started by a week, and I got this call from a guy named Ron Rush, who I didn't know who he was, and I didn't even know where Pembroke exactly was. And I must have applied someplace in the area and wasn't quite good enough to get the job or whatever. And they had called around looking for resumes, and I came over and took a ride, and he said, here's the deal, if Leon comes back, it's a guy replaced, then he gets to come back. That's how the teaching contracts work. And if Leon doesn't come back and you do a good job, then you can stay. We'll hire you. And basically, if Leon doesn't come back and you suck, we're not going to hire you. More or less words. So that was pretty much what he said, and it worked out good. Leon didn't come back, and I think he did get well though, and worked out good for me. So I went for 2 interviews. Because I figured I ride an hour to come here, so I figured I'd get some experience and move on. I went for one in Henniker. I didn't finish that interview. I didn't even like the principal, so that ended quick. And I went for one in Narragansett, Massachusetts, and I didn't like that either. And so I've never applied for another job. And I don't like change, and I was happy here. It's a pretty good place, and if I lived closer, you know, I wouldn't have been upset if my kids had come here. I think it's a decent school. I like the people, and the students are all pretty good. We don't have any real problems.
So I mean, Jaffrey's about an hour and a half away, right? Something like that.
55 miles. It takes 65 minutes.
How do you commute here every day like that? You've done that for like 30 years?
33 maybe.
33. How have you made that commute for 33
I don't know,
years?
just the ride here is not bad because I like to get up early in the morning. The ride home's kind of awful. Yeah. So most of those years, up until about 8 years ago, were alone, but I got remarried to a lady that works here, so she had to move with me. I can't really move very far. My mother's 89, so I'm not gonna, I can't really leave town. She still lives alone, but I know you kind of do it, and I don't know, just kind of fell into it. It's not fun, but it's, the ride here, like I said, it's not too bad. I get up early, and the ride home when you want to go home and do something, it's long, but just do it.
Yeah.
Part of life now.
What would you say is the coolest thing you've seen made in this wood shop?
I think a jewelry box years ago, like maybe 25 years ago. A kid named Jason Brennan made this walnut jewelry box. He spent a year on it, and classes were every day. Of course, they were shorter, so it was about the same amount of time. He did it all with hand tools. And it was pretty intricate, and it had little hand-cut dovetails. He wanted to do it. I mean, by hand, he didn't have to. And he just did a really nice job. He wood burned a rose in it. It had little trays inside that came out. They were lined with like felt on the bottom, so they were soft. And I told him he should give it to his mother. And he said, "No, I'm going to give it to my girlfriend." But you should give it to your mother. There's a lot of work there. She'll always be your mother, but your girlfriend might not always be your girlfriend, especially in high school. And he did give it to her for Christmas, and they broke up after Christmas in the winter sometime. And I had told the girl, she went here too. I don't remember her name, but I said he should give that to his mother, and I told her why too. And then, but she liked it, and she actually went and brought it to his mother and said, "You worked on this for a half a year, and it's really nice and really special. You should have it, and someday his wife will have it." I thought that was pretty kind of a neat story. I like that.
So, I mean, you said you went to college. That was at St. A's, correct?
Yep.
You got a bachelor's in criminal justice. How did a criminal justice degree end up going to teaching woodshop? How'd that happen?
Well, like when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a state trooper, but by the time I was a senior, I realized I didn't want to be a state trooper, and I applied to a couple local police departments, and I never really got a job. I didn't apply too far away from Jaffrey because I didn't really want to move very fast, so that kind of limited my my opportunity. And I did some substitute teaching. I had done carpentry and at St. A's to work my way through as a student, so I like doing this. My grandfather was kind of a woodworker. My father was pretty handy, so I like making things with my hands, and so I'd done the substitute teaching, and that seemed kind of fun. Most of the teachers I knew, although they weren't wealthy, they seemed to live as good as anybody in the community. They all had nice house, couple cars, went on vacation, normal life. They weren't, living in poverty, but they weren't the richest people in the community. It seemed like kind of a nice life, so I decided that I'd think about teaching, and although I like history a lot, and it would have been easy to get certified to teach history because St. A's kind of has a lot of liberal arts, and I took a lot of history there too, for electives, and so that would have been easy. We're doing the shop thing wasn't so easy. She had to take some wood classes and some teaching classes, and I got certified to do metal and wood and plastic and drafting, and machine shop, all the hands-on stuff. So it was a 2-year process, counting summers. It was 3 semesters plus summers of school and a semester of student teaching. I did that at Conval High School. So I like doing this, and so that's what I got certified to do, and it was kind of on the, I don't know what you call it, like on the cusp of, like, a lot of these areas don't exist in a lot of schools. So, in the 60s, every school had one, and now not every school has a shop. So it's kind of a dying field, so to speak, but it's less in my lifetime, so, and it's been good, kind of rewarding. I like it.
Yep. What would you say is your favorite thing you've ever made in there?
My favorite thing in here that I've ever made. I made a couple bedroom sets. I would do for presents. One was for an ex-wife, and one was for my sister. And I would make a bed one year, and then the next year I made bureaus. Each one had a couple bureaus, and my sister had a wardrobe too. And then one year I'd make a cedar chest, and one year I'd make nightstands. So partly because of time, I could only do one piece a year, and partly because of expense. The wood was kind of expensive, so I was within a budget. So I didn't have the time, nor did I have the finances to make a whole bedroom set in 1 year. So I pieced it together. So it gave me something for Christmas presents for about, figure out how many pieces. Bed, a couple of the nightstands I did 2 in a year. Bureaus I would do 1 a year. So a few years I had Christmas presents all lined up. So I like that.
I mean, you mentioned being in the Boy Scouts. What made you like the Boy Scouts? What was so interesting about the Boy Scouts?
I don't know. I started with Cub Scouts, and then I went to Boy Scouts. The normal progression. I did the leave lows. I learned how to be a leader. I liked camping. We used to do a lot of shooting in my troop, which was kind of fun. We would do canoeing and lake activities outside when the summer came. We camped in the winter year-round in tents in January and February. I don't think many troops do that now. When they go winter camping, they go to a Boy Scout camp and stay in a cabin. So you spent all weekend trying to get warm. You'd go there on a Friday, and Friday in January is pretty dark at 4 o'clock in the mornings, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you would, after school, go, and you'd hike out there, and it'd be dark. You'd be setting up a camp in the dark. It was good camaraderie. My father was involved in Scouts. In fact, he was involved even after I wasn't involved. So it was good. I don't know. I just liked it. I wasn't a very good athlete, although I played some JV basketball, but it was a small school. You don't have to make the team. It was kind of the in-crowd. It was part of it. And so they didn't, that was okay, but I wasn't very good, so I could excel at Scouts. It was good. Just liked it. We made things. I liked doing community service and helping people.
Yeah. How would you say the Boy Scouts influenced why you wanted to go in the shop? Why did you want to go in the shop?
I don't know. I like doing it. I like making things. I think I'm halfway decent at it. I think I can help people do it. So if you're going to teach something, you might as well do something you like to do. as opposed to something you don't like to do. Through the years, it seems to. I do a lot of side work, so I know when people find that out, they kind of respect somebody that can do things and not just learn it in a book, so to speak. Mr. Graziano writes books and publishes stuff, so when you take a writing class with him, you know that he actually really does writing, and I really do making things, or carpentry or whatever, so I enjoy it. So if you enjoy something, it makes it more fun, it makes it easier to do. I certainly wouldn't be very good at teaching poetry. I think I could do it, but I don't really like it, so I'd have to work really hard at it, and it'll only be mediocre, so that was my reason.
Makes perfect sense. Wait for the next thing. You want to pause that? I gotta head out.
So, at PA, how have things changed since you started? You've been here for 30 plus years. You've had to see some stuff change. What's been the big stuff for you think?
Well, obviously the building changed physically, but they had where the classrooms didn't exist, and where the cafeterias was classrooms, and they were a bunch of interior rooms without windows, and the office was where the main office was Mr. Langevin is, and where the computer guys are. We used to have a drafting room, and where the weight room is, we had a small engine shop, and we're straight across from this hall where the office was, or is. There was a graphic arts room, and they did old-time printing, but that's been phased out too with high-speed copiers and stuff. But buildings are buildings; they can come and go and change. But I don't know. I think the students are kinder. For the most part, there's groups of students now that in 1991 would have been kind of ostracized and not accepted. People are more kind that way. That's important. But there's also groups of students that were like protected by everybody, and they still are. People that are less fortunate, but I think people are kinder. They weren't, not that they were ever really bad. This was never really a tough school, but there were kids that would have got picked on. I think 30 years ago, they're kind of accepted and embraced. And I think that's a good thing. The music department, when I first started, was kind of mediocre for many reasons. I don't think it was necessarily the teacher, just I don't think they had a whole lot of dedicated students, and so it kind of went. It was like chicken or the egg thing first. So they do some really nice stuff now, nice plays. They have a nice band, nice chorus. So that's good. All the computers weren't here when I first started. In the draft room, we had these two old 1980, no, not 1980, they were IBM 186s or 1986. They were pretty old, and they wouldn't really run anything. And the principal at the time wanted me and another guy to go to this AutoCAD workshop, and kind of forced us to go in Bedford. And it was, AutoCAD's a drafting program, it's pretty intense. And it was for the updates. Every year the program would update. We were, I don't know how many versions behind, 15, 16. And at lunchtime the gig came over. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? No. We told him what we had and why we were there. And he's like, I'll sign you paper. You'd probably be happy to go to the mall for the afternoon, because we were so far behind. So, the school didn't really have any. And they were kind of on the, just coming into being. We used to do everything by hand. You'd fill out little sheets for report cards, for progress reports. Everybody would bring around these 3-part carbonless forms. I don't know what they are, but like a lot of people at school don't even know what they are now, or carbon paper. But you'd write on one, and then below it it'd be 3 copies, and you towed it around to your teacher, and the teacher would fill it out during class and might say, Kevin needs to work more, or Kevin does a great job, or missing. Some teachers would list the assignments, a little block for each class. I kind of like that in a way, because then you get to talk to everyone and say, well, here's your grades. Of course, they weren't a rank book, a paper book, everybody had a paper book, and at the end of the year the teachers would hand that in. All the plan books were Books, everything was on paper, so a lot more paperwork. Some of it changed. Most of it's all changed, actually. Some of the forms you sign at the beginning of the year you sign on the computer now, you used to have a big stack of them at the beginning of the year to hand stuff out, collect stuff in. Everybody used to get a student planner, like a 3-ring binder, but it was a big calendar, and to keep track of your assignments. And of course, now nobody uses calendars hardly, because everything's on a Chromebook or your phone. Your phones are a heck of a lot more powerful than even the first computers here were. So back in the beginning, in class, you'd text somebody across the room, passed them a note, you'd write a little sheet of paper, you'd pass it, and pass notes in the hallway. So kind of old school, but it's kind of neat, Just same stuff went on, just old school. You wrote a note instead of sending a text. You had to write a note back. Is that good?
That was great. I mean, I know I've done some work with you outside of school. When did that really start? When did the side contracting start? Was that before or after you started doing shop?
Before.
Before?
I started in college. When I went to St. A's, they had a carpenter shop. It wasn't instructional. They were the maintenance workers for the school, so I would work with them a few hours a week as a student. But on Saturdays, most of those guys had their own projects going. Some at their houses, but a lot of them, they would do side work for people. And St. A's had its own plumbers and electricians and carpenters, and all the trades were represented. So they'd get 2 or 3 guys together, and they'd work, and they might do a kitchen for somebody or rehab a house or storefront, whatever. So they hired myself and another guy that I was a student with, and we were fairly decent, and we'd work with them on Saturdays, sometimes Friday nights, but usually Saturdays. They'd pick us up at the dorm in the morning, take us to breakfast, and drop us off at the end of the day. And then I got out of school and I did my own thing for people. I had little jobs here and there, and I worked for UPS. At night loading trucks, and I built steps or decks or things that were within my ability range. And now, since I've gotten older and better, I do more intense things, I guess. But so probably a long time.
All the jobs you've had, the side jobs you've had, what do you think would be your favorite?
I don't know. I like doing kitchens and baths. Pretty good. I went for, I don't know if it was my favorite, but for about 3 years I couldn't seem to get off a roof. We did a lot of roofing, myself and another guy. And it was kind of nice. It was outside work. It was summer or fall or spring, usually weekends or summers. And it's kind of nice to work outside. I wouldn't want to be a roofer my whole life. It's kind of hard, miserable work, but it was kind of fun. Let's see what else. I like to do flooring. I like to do wood flooring. That's kind of fun. Cabinets. I like to make cabinets, I guess. I guess making cabinets, probably, maybe. Ultimately, doing a kitchen, doing my own cabinets, or kind of thing for somebody. I like that. This past year, I did some cement countertops for the first time. I kind of looked up how to do them, did some reading and research, and they came out pretty decent, So I enjoyed that a lot.
So, of all the things you've done just in your life, what would you say you're most proud of? Doesn't have to be wood shop, doesn't have to be just in general.
Most proud of, huh? I made 2 kids. Father's love there. I had a son and a daughter. Did the best I could, and they're doing pretty well. And my son cooks, and my daughter works for Jean Shaheen in her office, and she's finishing up her master's. guess my kids, raising my kids, probably the most proud thing.
Well, with just under 5 minutes left, what would you say to those who want to do a job in the trades like you? What, like people aspiring to do that at PA? What would you recommend they do? What words of wisdom would you have?
I don't get a job if you can go to school, to a good trade school or technical college. Those are good. You can go to community college. I know there was a guy that works at Chapel now. He's a diesel mechanic, and his folks wanted him to go they wanted him to get a degree too. So he went to a community college in Maine, and he's a diesel mechanic. He does a great job. He married his high school girlfriend here, so that worked for him, getting that degree and going to school there. I know some other folks from here that have gone to work for plumbers or electricians, a little bit bigger companies that you work all day long, and they pay for you to go to the code classes at night in Concord or wherever, Manchester. So you do that. So you're working as an apprentice in the day, and it takes 4 years to get a journeyman's license and another year to get a master's. You got to pass the test along the way. So that's kind of good. It saves you. We've had kids do Alteri or whomever, and they go on, and they don't pay anything to go to school. They don't have any debt. They're making pretty good money while they're doing it. You got to work hard. Listen to your boss. Don't take too much time off. Really, don't take any off if you can avoid it. Other than when it's scheduled, don't call it sick a lot. If you're just a little sick or got a headache, make yourself go to work. Work hard, pay attention, and listen. I think now a lot of people think they know everything and know a better way to do it. So at least when you start out, keep your mouth shut and listen. I don't care what job you do, whether it's here as a teacher, here as a maintenance worker, or working for Alteri or Eastern Propane or whoever. You want to be quiet, you want to listen, you want to look. For many reasons, you want to, don't want to turn people off, because then they don't want to teach you. And you don't know who's a friend or foe. So you should kind of ease into it before you line yourself up with anybody. Learn who knows the trade, and learn who's kind of a blowhard, so to speak. Because all places have those too. But if you can work and have somebody pay you to take and do the classes, pretty good. Had a lot of plumbers and electricians come through here. They seem to be doing well. Had some concrete workers, and drywallers. You got to do it to be good at it.
What would you say your biggest piece of advice, just for people at PA, would be going to adulthood in life? What would you say the biggest lesson you've learned is?
Probably not to complain. Try to see the good things. Know that you're just a cog in the wheel, and know that anybody can replace you, really at any time. Right now, labor's hard to find no matter where you are, but in general, nobody's irreplaceable, I'm getting ready to retire here pretty soon, and the guy's, ready to take over my job, and I think he'll do a pretty good job too. And, he'll change things here, do things that interest him, and do his own stuff. And the kids that are started here before I leave will he didn't do it this way. It doesn't mean it's better. It doesn't mean it's worse. It just means we did things differently. But, in 3 years, once everybody cycles out, I'll be a distant memory. And I'll have been replaced, and the new guy will be doing a good job, and, then at some point he'll cycle out. Miss Johnson was a great teacher and did really good, but by next year you really won't hear much from her or about her, because all upperclassmen will have been gone, and somebody else will be teaching AP calculus or whatever. And so Nobody's a replacement. You know. Learn to do what you do it well, and do what you think's right. Stand up for yourself. Be a good person.
So what would you say is on your agenda for the future? I mean, you got retirement soon. What's after retirement?
I'm going to do side jobs. My wife works here, so we have health insurance through the school, and neither one of us will be old enough to go on, Medicare kind of thing. And we can't not have health insurance, so one of us will have to get a job with health insurance, and it'll probably be her, and I'll just do cabinetry and side work and that kind of thing, I think. And if I end up having to get a job with insurance, I'll do that, and I'll still do side work for many reasons. I like it. The money's good, keeps me busy, and if I didn't keep busy, I'd be the size of a house in a couple of years. I could balloon out to 450 pounds without a whole lot of problem. I like to eat, and I don't like to exercise, so I'm not going to go to a gym or anything like that. So work is kind of my way to get exercise, and it's a good stress therapy. You always feel better after you make something. Look at it, and the stuff that I've made. I go to people. I have some people that I've worked for 30 years, and I might go to their house and see something that I did 30 years ago. And they're pretty happy with it still. I'm like, yeah, I can do better. Now, because I can do it better and I can do it faster. The same thing with stuff you make. I know you made some crosses, and 4 years from now you make crosses, and it'll take you half the time. They'll be better. Look at those first ones; they weren't, whatever. They were less refined, but they're still nice. So yeah, you feel good when you make something. So I'll always make things.
Yeah. I mean, I know we talked about what you're most proud of. What would you say of all the things your greatest accomplishments? What would you say your greatest hardship's been?
Here?
Just in general.
Hardship. Well, I went through a divorce. That's like going through a death. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing I ever went through. I found my father after he had died. I was the one that found him. And I think the divorce was harder. That's like a death. You live through it. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Yes.
What would the perfect day look like for you?
Start with breakfast. I like to eat breakfast. I like to make breakfast. So whether I made it and we ate it, or on Sundays, a lot of times we go out for breakfast. I think more because I like to than she does, but we don't go to nothing fancy. We either go to the Ridge Diner or the Peterborough Diner usually. Have breakfast, and then we go grocery shopping. We go home, putt around a little bit. If it's summer, I might mow the lawn. I have a shop at the house. I might work in the shop. I might just hang out with Michelle and watch a little TV. Unless she's watching a scary movie, then I don't watch it. I don't watch scary movies. But so we do that, and I don't know. We might take a ride someplace. I guess going out to breakfast and doing chores together. Sometimes we do go to the dump together. Just doing things with my wife, I guess. After breakfast. Notice that breakfast theme. Breakfast. After that, just kind of hanging out and doing chores, or it could be something fun too. It doesn't have to be anything special. Just do it together.
What would your favorite food be?
I used to like ice cream a lot. I used to eat a box of ice cream every other night. A big box. Eat half one night, half the other. And on Saturday and Sunday, I'd eat the whole box a day, one box a day. But then I had a heart attack, so that's not so much. That doesn't really happen. I have ice cream 2 or 3 times a year now, once in a while. I like any kind of pasta, which isn't really good for you either, but as favorite food goes, yeah, pasta. It can be anything. Lasagna, macaroni and cheese, any kind of noodle.
follow up with that, what would your favorite restaurant be?
My favorite restaurant. Probably Jonathan's in Algonquin. You know, we don't go there very often. You know, we don't even go there every year, but that'd be my favorite place. You know, it's kind of expensive, but you know, we don't drink there, so or anything. So if you don't get alcohol at a restaurant, that kind of cuts down a lot. And it's kind of a you're there for a couple of hours. It's it takes some time. You don't just go there because you don't feel like cooking supper on Saturday night. But yeah, that's probably my favorite. And my favorite local place would probably be the Ridge Diner, which we go to a fair amount. It's for breakfast or lunch, and kind of a not very fancy, but good home cooking stuff. So but a special occasion be Jonathan's, regular occasion be the Ridge Diner.
And to end things off, would you like to anything that you want to say to people listening at home or wherever they're listening to before we end? Just so you have the last word, what do you want to say?
I don't know. When I got hired here, my boss, Ron Rush, we were talking, and he said, "How long do you think you'll do this for?" I said, "Well, what do you mean? Well, how long do you think he meant work here, or teach? It didn't really matter." And I said, "Well, till it's not fun anymore, Which I don't know if that was the answer he was looking for, but I wasn't going to go to a job I hated every day. It makes a long life if you hate your job every day. So if I'd have done it for a year and it was awful, that would have been one and only, one and done, or whatever. But I'm looking at retirement now, but most days it's still fun. Some frustrating things like any job, but overall it's still a good job. But it's just time to go. You don't want to be somebody that stays in a job that's past their expiration date, so to speak. You want to kind of leave on top of your game, so to speak. So I think I still do a halfway decent job. So it's a good time to go. But it's been a good place to work. It's been a good place to hang out. Met a lot of nice people. Haven't met very many bad people. Pretty short list. It's been a good place to work. I've had fun. To thank everybody for good life here. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ricard. Thank you to all of you for listening, and goodbye.